Bling is second. CC Cruise Control is in third. Towhead is in fourth. And then Knock Your Socks Off, who's in fifth. Dulcia sixth. Delight the leader. Delight on top by 3, by 4. Back to Bling in second. Then CC Cruise Control. Knock Your Socks Off. Sabalenka coming late. No catching. Delight. Delight. Much the best for jockey Luis Saez in the J.P. Morgan Chase Jessamine Stakes. And it is Wonder Wheel with the lead. Wonder Wheel by 3. Raging Sea is fighting for second down to the inside. And then Chop Chop on the outside. Kidger between that pair. They're all bearing down on Wonder Wheel. Chop Chop is coming late from the outside, but the wire's coming. Chop Chop chasing Wonder Wheel. Raging Sea between them. Here's the wire and the Alcibiades. It's a head-bobbing photo for the win. They turn for home in the Claiborne Breeders Futurity. Forte striding forward to challenge Loggins into the final furlong, and Forte is up to take the lead. Loggins is fighting on toward the inside, but second. Forte leads at a half length. Loggins is still there toward the inside. Look at these two juveniles going at it. Loggins and Forte, Forte and Loggins, and it is Forte in the Claiborne Breeders Futurity for Ren Ortiz Jr. What a stretch battle.
Three-wide bid coming from Ed Tell Me No Lies in the center of the track, and she's up to take the lead with a furlong left to go. Uncontrollable running a big race, moving into second, then Justique home cooking a 16th to run, and Tell Me No Lies 2 lengths. Uncontrollable's coming, and Tell Me No Lies, uncontrollable, and Tell Me No Lies has won the Chandelier, punching a ticket to the Breeders' Cup. Furlong left to go. Cave Rock by 3, National Treasure, Hijazi, and Gandolfini. It's all Bob Baffert in the American Pharaoh, but Cave Rock is at the head of the class. And Cave Rock, ultra impressive, stretching out successfully to win by almost 6 lengths in the American Pharaoh.
Mile 44 3/5 seconds. It's Vacation Dance and Gaslight Dancer. They've been battling it out right from the start. There's racing room now for Nagarok, and here he comes on the outside. So it's 3 of them across as they come down for the 16th pole. Nagarok, Gaslight Dancer in between. Vacation Dance is down at the rail. They come on for the finish, and it is going to be Nagarok or Corrigan backwards. However you say it, he just won the 132nd running of the Futurity.
Here's No Nay Hudson striding forward. Now Private Creed is behind him, still 3 lengths from the front. Gent still hanging in there to this point. No Nay Hudson alongside. Private Creed third, 3 lengths away. Gent fights on. Here comes Private Creed. No Nay Hudson between horses. No Nay Hudson ahead in front. Private Creed is striding forward from the outside. Mostache is running late. Private Creed in front though. Private Creed wins it by almost a full length on the line. A big run by Mostache down the stretch to grab second. 102.3. That is a stakes record. Gigante is fourth. Bapio is fifth. Panama, Deer District right alongside now. These two going at it. Here comes, and the winner is. And the winner is striding forward for the lead. A late rally from our Dream Ride from fifth. But and the winner is to the front. Really Good's going to run late. But and the winner is. Indeed has won the Castle and Key Bourbon for Flavian Pratt. 1 minute, 41.27 seconds, a stakes record.
That's right, everybody. Welcome to your Future Stars forecast on this 2-year-old Tuesday. What a weekend we've had. All the baby preps are done. All the berths given out for Future Stars Friday. And I have a very special guest with me. He is somebody who is an expert at scouting out these stars before they shine bright. And that is Bloodstock agent Jacob West, who's connected to a couple of these 2-year-olds. Hey, Jacob.
Hey, how are you?
I'm doing well. Okay, well, first of all, tell your story and to whom you're connected, of course.
I'm the president of West Bloodstock, which was launched roughly 4 or 5 years ago. And my 2 main clients as of right now would be Mike Rapoli and Robert and Luana Lowe. And so Previous work was with Clips Thoroughbreds and some other smaller clients that the world doesn't know, but hopefully they'll know them here before too long with some purchases that we've made.
Well, it's very exciting. I was reading, back about your story, and you started from the ground up grooming at TaylorMade.
Absolutely, yeah. I graduated college in 2008, right at the economic crash. And my first job was actually at the Keeneland January 2009 sale, which was, I believe, like the coldest sale on record, and I think like statistically one of the worst sales on record, also. But the second I walked into the barn, I knew that I had found my calling, and it was home, and it was comfortable, and I was fortunate enough to get started with some very good teachers and the Taylor brothers and their program. And luckily, it's culminated into some success here recently.
I know. Well, more specifically, like you said, you're working with Mike Rapoli, who's Forte just won the Claiborne Breeders Futurity. You also had Uncontrollable run second there in the Chandelier. I saw you guys at this recent sale at Keeneland, and it was really funny because I asked Mike, well, how long are you in town? And he said, for as long, or until the money runs out, is what he told me, which is hilarious because as I said to him, well, then I guess you're here forever.
Absolutely.
I did ask if everything went smoothly, approximately how many yearlings would you like to come away with? And I think he said, I can't remember the exact number. It was something pretty impressive, but you all did end up being the biggest seller or buyer at the sale, correct?
We did, yeah. I think we signed the ticket on all of, or at least 50% of 69 horses, I believe the tally was. Since then, we've had a couple purchases out in California with Michael McCarthy, and a couple private purchases for some horses running on the track. But yeah, it's a big number, but it's the dedication to the game from Mike is pretty tremendous.
Oh, definitely. And one of the things that really struck me is that he was telling me with Forte in particular, he was, I believe, a book 4 yearling and purchased for 110,000, whereas he had spent 900,000, I believe, on another yearling, and so he averaged it out.
Exactly. I don't think at the end of the day they care how much we pay for them. It's just what the results are on the track, and that's
Yeah.
the best thing about it.
Well, why don't you tell us what is it exactly about Forte that attracted your team?
Well, the team is made up of myself, Ed Rosen, Jim Martin, Danielle Bricker, and obviously Mike Rapoli, who's the number one kind of he calls the shots for sure. But it's a collective team effort, no doubt. I mean, there's a lot that goes into the purchasing of these horses. Whether you want to look at it from myself or Danielle doing the confirmation, or Ed Rosen really studying the pedigree. Jim plays a part in the racing side of it. He kind of is a historian when it comes to racing. He's got a good memory on some horses that have run, and so when you add all that together, then we present it to Mike, and then Mike gets to make the final call. I mean, it is his kind of deal, but he lets us do our job. So Forte in particular, was just a big, good-looking horse that reminded me a lot of his father. I mean, he looks just like Violence. Obviously, when you can buy those types of horses, you can turn them over to the guy who trained the sire and Todd Pletcher.
Yeah.
When they're big athletic horses and they kind of fit the mold of what Mike and Vinny are looking for, then it's pretty easy to get those guys to jump on board with us.
Yeah, and Vinny and Mike teamed up. They won the Classic Vino Rosso a couple of years ago. Very exciting. Son of Curlin there. But with Forte, they are again a team. And as you mentioned, Son of Violence out of Queen Caroline by 2010's Breeders' Cup Classic champ Blame. The thing about Violence that I really like is I think some people also forget he just comes from. I mean, not only is he by Medaglia de Oro, but he comes from a really. And Ed and I, by the way, we talked for about a good 45 minutes to an hour.
Yeah, absolutely. You need to get Ed on here. I mean,
Oh my God.
he's the pedigree guru.
I adore
I'd
him.
put him up against anybody in our business when it comes to studying a pedigree, and he plays obviously a vital part in what we do and the success that we have.
Oh, definitely. And he just, like you said, I mean, he speaks the language. But I think people also forget Violence. He's comes from one of those really deep, prolific female families. I mean, talking about the family of Sky Beauty, Maple Jinsky, DeJour. And so he is bringing with him not just the class up top, but on the bottom. And in this case with Forte being out Queen Caroline, you know, I mentioned this, and this is true for Chocolate Gelato as well, we'll get into, but obviously one of the great families is that of 1X, that, of course, for those watching, La Troyenne. And the thing that I found so interesting with this family, if you really follow it closely, is the juvenile winners it's produced. I mean, already, okay, you have Essential Quality, you have last year's winner, Corniche, you have Game Winner, and that's just the recent horses, but you also have Rhythm, who's more closely related in the pedigree of Chocolate Gelato. So there's something there, and it's not surprising to see a colt like this show so much talent early. When he did debut, he debuted an emphatic winner by 7 3/4 lengths there at Belmont. Were you on site?
I was not. I was watching and cheering from afar. But, you know, like the horse was broken trained at Ocala Stud, David O'Farrell and his family down there. Jim lives in Ocala, so he keeps tabs on a lot of the babies down there. And all along, they had told us that how much they liked Forte early in his training. I mean, from it seemed like day one. Then the horse got sent into Todd at Palm Beach Downs early on. Todd was able to, you know, put him into the program and get him up and going. And Todd raved about how well he was training and how good he was doing. And so when we saw him run in his first race, I mean, not to say those things are expected, but we were pretty optimistic going into the race that he would run well, and he lived up to it for sure.
Oh my goodness. Yes. Now the Sanford, what was the feedback with that race in which he finished fourth, beating 5 3/4?
You know, it's hard to explain for me because I've always said, you know, good horses work out a good trip. But in this instance, he had a horrible trip. I mean, he got kind of left at the gate, pinch, squeezed back. Irad did everything that he could to kind of get him back up into the race. They turned for home and he started gobbling up ground. I mean, he was making up tons of ground, 2 strides to the winners, you know, 1 stride type thing. And if you go back and watch the replay, I mean, once he leveled off at the quarter pole, inside the quarter pole, kind of 3/16 pole, he came with his run. And I mean, he ended up galloping out in front of the winners, which again, that's one of those unfortunate things that happens in this game. But you know, to come back and win the Champagne, or I'm sorry, win the Hopeful, and then to win the Breeders' Futurity, he kind of, you know, made us back on the optimistic train for sure.
Oh, yeah, and on 2, I mean, not just 2 different tracks, but Saratoga, the track had come up sloppy sealed. And he won by 3 lengths over Gulfport, and then back in third was Blazing Sevens, and then we saw Blazing Sevens come back to win the Champagne for Chad Brown. Now, like you said, he comes here to Keeneland and he just grits it out there in the Claiborne Breeders Futurity. I know we saw the stretch run in there, but I think it's still worthwhile to watch the whole race from your perspective, if you don't mind sharing. I'll keep your mic up and you can tell. Obviously, I know you were there. I saw you in the paddock before. And I said, you know, it's funny, everybody watching. I told Jacob in the paddock, I was like, I need to get you on the show sometime one of these days. And little did he know I was going to be coming back for within a day to tell me you had to come on now. You'd won the Breeders' Futurity. So let's go ahead, pull that up. And here is, let's see, here's in post 6.
Yeah, I mean, this is one of the spots where, you know, like kind of the start of the race is almost sometimes indicative of how the race is going to be run. But Irad did an incredible job of kind of letting those horses get away from him, go down to the rail and save a little bit of ground here going into the first turn. Going down the backside, I was actually a little kind of wary because we knew that Loggins had a lot of speed and it looked like he was just cruising. But about right here, maybe a little bit further, you can see that Irad has him in a great rhythm. I mean, he's just settled down right underneath him and he was in a perfect spot. I was with my mom and my girlfriend at the, you know, at the race, I was telling him, like, I think he's in a faint spot right here. And you can see kind of as they reach, you know, right about the 3/8 pole, Irad will start kind of getting to work on him. And the 2 Baffert horses that were in front of him, we knew they were going to have speed. Obviously, Wayne's horse that was there, we knew he was going to have speed. But you see him starting to kind of get into that groove. And Irad's already starting to plan out his trip here. and switch them to the outside and hope that those horses in front of them kind of back up a little bit, which they seem to do.
Yeah.
But yeah, right about here, I kind of started feeling pretty confident because I know Irad and how strong he is and how he can finish. But we knew Loggins was going to have a lot of speed and he can carry it around a ground. But kind of started feeling a little bit more optimistic right here. He switches leads, levels off. Obviously, that horse comes back on him on his inside. It looks like he kind of hung a little bit and waited on this other horse to come back to him. They made contact. I think everybody knows that. Irad hit Loggins. Loggins came to hit us. But the one thing that gave us a lot of confidence in the review was that, both Irad and Florent, neither one of them stopped riding. So at the end of the day, we do feel like the best horse won, and we obviously we feel like the stewards made the right call.
No, I hear you there. So he was the 7th horse there. I'm sorry, everybody, but yeah, that's the thing. I mean, when these horses eyeball each other like that, it really is a testament to whether or not they do have that type of grit, that intestinal fortitude to carry on to get that win for you, and that's something that cannot be trained in. So it had to be rewarding to see a performance like that going now into the championships. And I got to give props to Loggins too. I mean, that horse was just making the second start of his career. It was quite professional. And then here from an odd aside, you also had the half brother, although you guys aren't connected with him personally, other than Todd training him. Lost Ark was in there as well. I think he finished 6th. And that is the half brother by Violence to Nest.
Correct. Yep.
So
yeah, I mean, anything he can do on the track only, keeps Nest's name in the highlight reels a little bit longer,
Well,
we cheer him on too. So.
Oh, of course. I mean, he was going into that race, I believe, 2 for 2. He'd won the sapling. And so, hey, I mean, it's all right. I think he didn't have the best of trips in that race. There was some steadying going on and whatnot. So definitely, we'll talk about Nest more later. But also on this weekend, going back now to the fillies in the Chandelier, Uncontrollable, Rapoli stable, Mike McCarthy trainer, daughter of Upstart. She was going into the race with already 2 starts. She'd won her maiden at Del Mar against state bred competition because she's Calbred. And then she had run a really good second in the generous portion. And now we're going to take on open 2-year-old fillies in the grade 2 Chandelier. And she was already going up a horse that was a grade 1 winner in And Tell Me No Lies. And she only got beat 3/4 of a length.
Yeah, she was a filly we bought, I believe, OBS March, or it could have been OBS April. It's kind of a it was a little bit of an outside move for Mike in general because she was Calbred, but his relationship with Michael McCarthy going back to, when Michael worked for Todd, is very strong. And so when we purchased her at the 2-year-old sales, it didn't take a lot of convincing, but it was kind of one of those, it makes sense to send her out to the West Coast. And obviously, Michael is a byproduct of Todd, and the transition there is very comfortable. He's also a very good friend of mine. And, I'm just happy to see that filly kind of show up and do what we believed in when we bought her.
Well, we can go ahead and we can show that replay here. Let's see if I can pull up the right one, the Chandelier Stakes. Now, from a perspective of somebody who is scouting for young horses, young talent, you're looking at these books, you're looking at these sires. On a side note, when you're looking at the Chandelier and you're looking at the front runner, it's the American Pharaoh now. And you see both horses in this case, And Tell Me No Lies, and then in the American Pharaoh with Cave Rock, both of them being by the late Highgate. There's got to be sort of a sense of what could have been.
I think there's no doubt about that. I mean, Highgate was one of the most talented horses that we've seen, especially in my lifetime, if not in the thoroughbred industry. I mean, he was dominant when he was at the prime of his career. And you're exactly right. It's only a loss for the industry that he suffered his untimely death. And we're believers in Highgate ourselves with the Rapoli team. Yeah, Mike was very adamant that we tried to buy the best ones that we could, and I think we bought 3 or 4 of them. And yeah, we're big believers in that stallion for sure.
Oh yeah, and another reason also because we were looking forward to him continuing the Unbridled Song legacy too, right?
Absolutely.
But I mean, that's the thing. And I think some people might have been surprised that Arrogate's 2-year-olds could come out like this and be grade 1 winners early on. But again, I would say that while he didn't really get roll until 3, I mean, again, Unbridled Song won the Breeders' Cup Juvenile back in 1995.
Absolutely.
So here we go with Uncontrollable. She is the 6 horse, 24-1 here.
Yeah, she's a little filly. Like Michael McCarthy was jokingly saying the other day that you could pick her up and put her in the back of your car if you needed to transport her. But she's got a lot of heart. I mean, she lays it down every time we run her. Her maiden win was pretty spectacular, and how she came off the pace and ran down the horses in front of her. Then she goes straight into a stake, runs second there, or wins the stake, and then runs second again. And then to show up against Open Company in a grade 2, and like you said, almost defeat a grade 1 winner and Tell Me No Lies. Like, she's a serious filly. Michael's pretty confident that, if we send her into Keeneland, she'll appreciate the surface and the ground and the trip. And, hopefully she shows up.
Yeah. And this is a daughter of Upstart. Out of Behavioral by Include. Mom is a half to grade 3 winner Inspiring, who won the Sorrento. Was there anything in particular that really caught your eye about this one?
I mean, she was affiliate. You get the benefit of watching the 2-year-old in training sales, the horses, how they move across the ground and how they, how they breeze and how they gallop out. And that was that instant, like all tied in with her. In this instance, we got to see how she moved, and she moved incredibly well. And you can see that in her races. She had a big gallop out at the sales. She's, like I said, she's not a very big filly, but she moves like a big filly. She's got a long stretch and a long stride. So, there was a lot of confidence in buying her from Dave McCathan and his grassroots consignment, because he turns out, these types of horses on a pretty consistent basis. Ed was a big believer in Upstart, and you see him, he's definitely a stallion on the rise. So again, when the confirmation team and the inspection team can present it to Ed, and Ed can okay the pedigree, and then it goes to Mike, they kind of checks all the boxes, and then you get a lot of confidence in stepping in there and bidding on them.
I love, you're known for, a physical. And what to you is the most important? I mean, we all have a baseline, right? The very first thing we look for, whether it's how we handicap, whether, when we even meet somebody for the first time, what is the first thing you, Jacob West, are looking at when you're looking at a prospect?
It's 2 things for me. I think the number one thing is presence. When a good horse walks out of the barn and stands up in front of you, they do have a presence. They're kind of a big bright eye in the way that they just stand, kind of almost statuesque, or look off into the distance. A mentor of mine, John Hall, always had a saying, they have the look of eagles. They kind of stare off into the distance. You're not exactly sure what they're looking at, but, they have a lot of class and they have a lot of presence about them. But then, to me, the most important thing, and it's kind of one of those, like amongst bloodstock agents, it's like a controversial thing, but to me, it's how they move, how they walk. And I've never really been around a lot of good horses that don't have some sort of fluid movement.
Yeah.
And to me, that's just how they walk is how they jog is how they gallop, and how they gallop is how, in most cases, how they run in the races. So, some guys don't care how they move. I know a lot of good sprinters aren't necessarily the best movers in the world, but to me, it kind of also plays into, longevity of their career, because if they're fluid movers, they normally take care of themselves on the track. And it's always a good thing to see that the horse moves very well and is correct. And that's what I look for, is that presence and kind of movement, like that package. Because look, I worked at TaylorMade Sales Agency for 10 years, and we sold some of the best fillies that came off the track while I was there. And that was the one thing that, you could always just kind of come back to, was that presence. And then they were always had, like fluid movers. And that's what I took away from some of those really, really nice fillies that we sold.
Oh yeah. The thing also, when you talk about the way they move and how they take care of themselves, one of the horses, and I brought this up on the show before, everybody, I'm sorry if I'm repeating myself to you, but Gun Runner is one of these horses that moves like a legit panther. The understep on that horse, and then the way he carries the back leg out, even. And it was
Absolutely.
it caught your eye. Just this horse walking by you caught your eye because of that. And it was funny because I don't know if you saw West Point put out a photo of Flightline yesterday when he was selling as a yearling, and he showed him sort of stretching his back leg out. And it just kind of struck me as, well, of course you'd be able to basically look like you're doing a yoga pose or something, you know?
Yeah.
Right? I mean,
Absolutely.
yeah, you're looking for a horse that, as you said, they will take care of themselves if they're not clumsy, right? They move.
Yeah, no doubt. No doubt. I mean, look, I liken it to athletes. So, like, when Usain Bolt walks into a room, you have a pretty good idea that that guy's some sort of athlete.
Right.
You might not know exactly what he does, but LeBron James walks into a room, you have a pretty good idea that, he's some sort of athlete. It's the same way with horses. I mean, they make liars out of us all the time, but if you start with a baseline of just a horse that looks athletic, then you can give them to good, guys that break them, and then they send them on to Todd, and then we get, you have the best jockeys in the world and the best trainer in the world. You have a pretty good chance of being successful.
Well, just before we go on, because I do have a few comments here. Oh, I'll just post them right now, actually. Wayne Harrison is saying, yay, the 2-year-olds are here. That is right. And then Jay, hey, ladies and gents, any report on how Forte came out of his race? Oh, came out of his race.
Yeah, absolutely. Came out great. Went and saw him the next morning, and he was there. And Amelia Green, who's Todd's assistant here at Keeneland, she reported back that he jogged up great the next day and he ate all of his food. And, so he came out of it in fantastic shape. And we're just kind of patiently, anxiously waiting for 4 weeks until the Breeders' Cup.
Now, since Amelia's here, is he going to just stay here then?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, the decision was made to send him in to give him a race on the track, and then just to stay here and train up for the Breeders' Cup.
I actually, while we are talking about Forte again really quickly, we did get to very kindly do a barn visit when we were up in Saratoga, me and the fam, Matt and my daughter Ava, and we saw Forte then. And he was so sweet. That's my little girl's hand on his nose. He was so sweet to her. Really kind horse. Going back to, I find all the sales stuff really fascinating for a number of reasons. But I would also ask, do you have a preference, whether it's the yearling sale, the 2-year-old sale, like you said, where you can actually see them under saddle and moving? Does it not matter to you? You like them both? Is there more pressure with one because you have to wait and hope that there's more time, and you really then want that return on investment?
There's pros and cons that are associated with both of the sales, obviously, but I do prefer the yearling sales. I mean, I think at those sales you get the selection of a really good physical and really good pedigree. At the 2-year-old and training sales, you're going to get a handful of those horses that meet that criteria. They might be horses that missed a yearling sale for whatever reason, and then ended up surfacing in a 2-year-old sale. But at the yearling sales, that's when our industry sends their best, to the sales normally. So I would much rather buy them. I think us as a team, we would much rather buy them as yearlings, because then once we buy them, you kind of control more of their destiny when you send them to, your preferred guys that put their pre-training into them. So we've had success in both, obviously, but I think as a team, I can speak on behalf of the Rapoli team, we would much rather buy them as yearlings.
What is the pressure like when you're finding horses for Mike Rapoli?
He demands excellence, perfection. No, he understands the game. Obviously, he's been in it a very long time. There is no real finger pointing when things go bad, or like a horse can't run. And then also, in fairness to him, when a horse can run, it is it's a team thing. There is no I. There might be an I with him, but it is a team aspect, and I think that can be said in a lot of his businesses, and the success that he's had is because he shares his success with other people, and then when things don't go right, the right way, it's just a learning tool, to figure out that we won't do that again, type thing. And it's really, it is the high pressure because, Mike's a high pressure guy. I mean, But at the end of the day, we know there's a certain level of comfort now that goes along with that pressure. And look, you can only really perform when you do have pressure, because that means it means something to you.
Right. And I did see a glimpse of the war room.
Yeah.
And just, I mean, it was game on, and I love it because everything was being taken in with such earnestness. And even though he is somebody who has this crazy big budget,
Mhm.
Nothing's flippant. Everything is with purpose. You're still at the end of the day conducting business, and so there's no frivolity or anything like that. And as you said, it does appear to be a team effort. Everybody is looking at everything, making sure the I's are dotted, the T's are crossed as you're making these decisions. And so it's got to be even more a situation in which you can let out that breath that you're holding when you do see these horses perform in the way in which they do. Another horse, of course, that we have to talk about is Chocolate Gelato, and she won the Frizette. This is a horse we're going to be looking very closely at when it comes to the Net Jets Juvenile fillies. And as I already mentioned, Family 1X again. That also includes juvenile fillies and 2-year-old champion filly Folklore. So it's just a really great, again, family that has all these branches through from La Troyenne. But let's go ahead and take a look at the Frizette, and then you can talk about Chocolate Gelato and why she looks so sweet at the sale. Sorry, I had to put a pun in there. That's what I'm known for. So were you there for this one?
I was not. No, again, I was cheering from afar. And based on the weather that we had for this day, I was kind of glad that I wasn't there, fortunately. So.
Oh, so everybody, you see the Rapoli silks. The number 4 is Chocolate Gelato. And let me go ahead and pull up. She was going into the Frizette off an 8.5 length victory at Saratoga. That was the second start of her career. She put up a 92 buyer in that maiden score. On debut, she finished 3rd, but she was only beaten a length and a half.
Yeah, she was a favorite going into her maiden race, and we were pretty high on her based on the training reports out of the Pletcher camp. And I would be lying to you if we weren't a little disappointed in how she ran in her first start. But coming back in her second start, running the way that she did, she just kind of, again, she confirmed our belief center in that second start at Saratoga.
Yeah, and here I love to see a young filly like this. She's going between horses here.
Yeah, no, I mean, look, she was sold, from Steve Venosa, SGV Thoroughbreds down at the Miami sale, and Mike and
425,000.
Yeah, Mike and Steve have a very good relationship, and Jim Martin and Steve have a very good relationship. Steve had, kind of touted this filly to us before the sale. And, again, it's one of those benefits of being able to see him breeze and like you said, under saddle and get across the track. And we did that, and we were able to buy her and support Steve and buy a nice filly who's now a Grade 1 winner.
Yeah, and I mean, her immediate family, I talked more about the extended part of it where there are horses that belong to this family, but the immediate family is lit, y'all. Just to go over a little bit for the fellow pedagogues out there. So she's by Practical Joke, Grade 1 winning son of Into Mischief. And then she's out of the Candy Ride Mare Special Treat. Well, that's great right there. But the second dam's by Forestry and a Half to Imagining, who won the Grade 1 Man of War. So that makes the third dam Daydreaming by AP Indy. It was a graded stakes winner out of who would be Chocolate Gelato's 4th dam, and that is Get Lucky. And Get Lucky is a full sister to the aforementioned Rhythm, who won the Breeders' Cup Juvenile back in the day for Shug McGahee. And so, yeah, this family includes Super Saver, Got Lucky, Callback, Bluegrass Cat. I mean, it's just very, very deep.
Absolutely. We've had a little bit of luck with Practical Joke and Wit that we bought as a yearling in partnership with Vinny and then Gainesway Stables. And, like this filly, again, she was a big, good looking filly that moved very well. And we had a lot of confidence. We touted her so highly. Ed was excited because it, like you keep mentioning, it's a deep Phipps family, and for all the pedigree gurus out there, anytime they see those Phipps families come along, if you can get into them and explore your opportunities with those horses, you get pretty excited.
Well, especially with a female, because now, I mean, here she is, and she's a grade 1. She's a grade 1 winner at 2 years old, and she has that family behind her so now she's made as a broodmare.
Absolutely, yeah. Sometimes they do make their own pedigrees, but in this instance, she had a lot of back class in her pedigree on the female side for sure.
Do you all look to balance that when you are buying, whether it's from Rapoli and Vinny Viola, or if it's or if it's for the lows? Are you looking at the potential for them to turn around if you want to put them through the ring as breeding stock?
With these operations, Mike and Vinny specifically, they have so many stallion interests that when you come up with one of these fillies that's, shows a lot of ability and obviously a graded stakes winner, a graded stakes potential, it's easy for them to hold on to them and breed them to one of their stallions. Yeah. Mr. and Mrs. Lowe, in that instance, they don't really sell a lot. They love their horses and they love to retain the fillies and keep them as broodmares. And they've got a couple of really nice fillies right now that are carrying their first foals, whether it's Sweet Melania, who we bred to Frankel, or Spice is Nice is in foal into Mischief, and a handful of others. So it's one of those deals that, it's the beauty of working for these operations is that, they'll retain them and then they'll breed out of them, and then we get to follow their careers as broodmares closely.
What is a regular day like for you? Are you helping put together the meetings too, or, I mean?
For me, like in Rapoli's side, it's the blessing of having Eddie Rose in there. I mean, Ed picks my brain on some confirmation with some stallions and then some of the mares, but the breeding operation on Mike's side is strictly goes through Jim and Ed. When you can tap into their brains and what they can bring to the table, it's easy for me to stay out of the way. And on Mr. and Mrs. Lowe's side, they have a close relationship with the Taylor brothers, Mark Taylor specifically. So Mark is very intertwined in the breeding side of that because, Mark wants them to breed the best horses that they can, in order to maybe potentially sell a couple of yearlings that they do a year. But more often than not, I stay out of the way on that side of the things. Going to the sales and doing that's more my gig, my speed. And when you can let the experts like Ed and Jim and the Taylor brothers, help them, I just stay out of the way.
So for you, is this more of a matter of you're looking at prospects to buy for clients and you're looking at prospects to sell for clients on a daily basis? I'm guessing you do a lot of farm visits, a lot of touring of the potential yearlings or 2-year-olds that people are offering.
Absolutely. Yeah.
How do you keep it all straight? I'm sure there are a lot of spreadsheets.
I was just getting ready to say, you become pretty proficient in Excel. But it's what I love doing. I would never ever complain about my job or who I work for. I'm blessed and lucky for who I'm associated with, and it's obviously the success that we have. I know I play a small part in it, but I'm just happy that good people have success in this business.
Oh my gosh. Well, we're going to talk a little bit more about some of the success you've had with Highgate, which you co-founded with somebody else I'm a big fan of, and that is Jill Gordon. And we'll talk about that in just a bit. Before I get to the next horse we're going to discuss, Wayne Harrison wants to know, are you scared of Cave Rock?
Absolutely. I mean, he looks like an absolute monster out there on the West Coast, but he's a horse that has been highly touted for a long time, and he was picked out by a very good friend of mine in Donato Lani for the Three Amigos Racing, and I have a lot of respect for Donato and the horses that he buys, and that horse is pretty serious. So I think anybody in the world would be scared of that horse.
I think he put up 104 buyer winning
he's
this weekend.
Absolutely serious horse. We're confident in our horse, though, I will tell you. So we're here, he's got a ship, it's horse racing, you never know what's going to happen, and we just got to load him up in the gate and go at him and see what happens, and the best horse will win.
That is correct. Let's see here. And by the way, everybody, really cool. If you do go back and watch the American Pharoah, there were other trainers with horses in there, but Bob ended up getting the superfecta, the top 4. And like you said, I mean, it's a testament. You've got a great training program, and then you also have the eyes picking out these horses who they feel, give that oomph at 2 years old. How big is that pressure for you guys to not only find a really good horse, but one that can turn it around that quickly?
I mean, it's a high pressure situation, but once we buy them, like I always jokingly say, I've never bought a slow horse. Todd just doesn't know how to train them. But like once you buy them and they get into the program, that's what our job is essentially done. And it's up to them and the best trainers in the world, and Todd Pletcher and Bob Baffert to get these horses to excel and be their best on the right days.
That's right. Now, Lawrence is also saying, streaming show from Northfield Park for myself and 2 other horse racing fanatics that never miss this show, and your wonderful guest. Thank you, Ren. Thank you, Lawrence, for tuning in. Really appreciate it. Okay, so of course we have to talk about Nest. Hello, she wins the Beldame, and I'm sure you all were expecting she would do it. And as this is the word I've been using, this is my, if you're doing a drinking game, all you can drink now, emphatic style. Nest is just such a cool filly. So
Absolutely.
Let's go ahead and pull this replay up and just talk us through it. And I'm guessing you watched this one from home too, or
yeah. It was the day after Forte's race, so I was on the comforts of my couch watching this one.
No, I do not blame you at all. Let's see here. We're gonna get this going here. There we go. And so here's the grade 2 Beldame, although she won it like the grade 1 winner she is.
Absolutely. She's a filly with a high cruising speed that's able to carry it over a route of ground, and that's the most dangerous thing in our sport.
Yes.
She's bred to get the distance, and as the days have kind of been added to the calendar, the better she's been doing. And I mean, again, we just think that she's a horse for the future, even though she's already, confirmed our beliefs in her early on when we bought her. So to see her win this race, it's a historic race. It's a prestigious race. It's amazing to me that it's been downgraded to a grade 2 and not still a grade 1, but it is what it is. But like you said, she won it like, she is the grade 1 winner that she is.
Oh my gosh. I mean, she was going into the race off a 4 1/4 length win in the Alabama. This was her first time stepping up against older, and she crushes them by 9 3/4 lengths. And the thing that's so also impressive about her record, I mean, whatever happened in that she lost in her second start, that was the Tempted Stakes, 3/4 of a length. Who cares? We're drawing a line through that one. But the record of 7 wins from 10 starts, 2 runner-up performances. Those were in the Kentucky Oaks, and the other runner-up performance was in the Belmont Stakes, and she lost to stablemate Modonegal. But this is after she stumbled out the gate, all that. She ran so gallantly against the boys that day in the Test of a Champion. What was the mood like? I mean, obviously, I'm guessing because you were more connected with Nest than Modonegal that you were rooting for her, but it still had to feel almost like a win.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, it was funny right after the race. Like even Aaron Wellman said to me, like she was by far the best horse in the race. She just didn't, for whatever reason, get the trip. Irad took on. He got to ride Modonegal when he had normally rode Nest. We had Jose on, which is obviously a fantastic rider too. So it's not really a downgrade, but you do have to wonder, had Irad been on Nest and Jose on Modonegal, what would have happened? Would the tables have been turned? But that's always going to be something that's in the back of your mind. But yeah, she ran incredibly well in the Belmont, and it took a lot of, like Mike wants to win the Belmont. He's a New York guy himself. I always tell people he's a New York bred himself. So he wants to show up at Belmont and hoist the trophy. He got to do that obviously this year with Modonegal. But yeah, there might have been a certain part of him that wishes that it would have been Nest for that particular reason. But look, he got the win that he's been searching for since he entered this game, and we were only ecstatic for him.
Oh, all right. What was it about? I'm going to ask that same question. What was it about Nest that you all felt we need to get this filly? $350,000 yearling.
Yeah, I mean, looking back on it, it's kind of a little bit of a steal almost. She was in book 2 at Ashview consignment.
I'm so sorry. I should also mention owned in partnership with Eclipse.
Absolutely, yeah. She was there. She was at the Ashview consignment. So my job is that I go out in front of kind of everybody and I create a short list. Went by the Ashview consignment, saw her. I think she actually was in the same barn as Mo Donegal. I'm pretty sure they were like side by side in the stalls, but for whatever reason, we passed on Mo Donegal and pointed towards Nest. But she was, again, I'll sound like a broken record also. I mean, she just was an athletic filly that was medium sized. She's not a huge, physically imposing filly, but she was very, very athletic, very light on her feet, had all the right bone structure, muscle structure, and then when it came to putting the pedigree to Ed, it was funny because at the time Idol wasn't on the page, and we had looked up, and Ed, it's again the benefit of having somebody like Ed Rosen on your team. We looked up and saw that she had a full brother that I think at the time was like breezing bullets at Churchill. And once we did a little bit more digging and found out through the consignment through Gray, they were very high on her brother. So it kind of was one of those instances where, you love the physical. And then when Ed can, find like a little hidden gem like that, you get it to piece it together. And at the time, working very involved with Eclipse Thoroughbreds and obviously the Rapoli team, it only made sense that when you love something like that and you have two guys that are willing to partner, like you go in there and you make a big run, and Aaron and Mike and the teams were just, they got on board with what my beliefs were in her. And then, again, it's one of those funny things, like, I'm sure the consigners hate hearing this stuff, but we were well prepared to go higher on her and make a big run at her. And of course we buy her for $350,000, and both Aaron and Mike both say, well, I would have owned her for, myself for that. Why, and so you laugh about it. But look, it's a partnership that makes a lot of sense. And there are two guys and two operations that absolutely love racing. And she's a filly that's stamped herself as probably one of the best horses that either one of those operations will ever own. Yeah. And it's a lot of fun to just be associated with her.
Well, here's a question. Were you guys together? Were your phones buzzing when Idol did win the Santa Anita Handicap, the grade 1?
Well, like he won at Churchill, and I'm pretty sure he like set the track record or something when he broke his maiden.
Right. Yeah.
So then you start getting excited, about that. And then she had her early beginnings down at Stone Street Training Center, and Ian Brennan and his team down there were very, very high on her. And again, it's always good when you get the early reports that the pre-trainers are excited about these horses, and then when they go onto the track and really confirm your beliefs in them, it's the perfect mix and the perfect recipe.
And it's so weird for me as somebody who is I'm called a petty geek, but I never realized until today, for some reason, Nick Tamaro, he posted the past performances of Malatot, who's there in the Pletcher Barn also, who she'll have to face there in the Longines distaff. But I never realized that Malatot, Clairiere, and Ness, of course I knew they're all by Curlin. Hall of Famer Curlin, champion Curlin. But I didn't realize, and then out of good dams too, but all their dams are connected to AP Indy. I mean, Malatat is out of Grade 1 winner Dreamy of Julia by AP Indy. Clairiere is out of Grade 1 winner Cavorting by Bernardini. That is a son of AP Indy. And then Nest, Marion Ravenwood, stakes winning daughter of AP Indy. I guess that process works.
Yeah, it's there was actually a statistic. I'm pretty sure like Ed was talking about it, and then we saw it when we were up at Saratoga. The Curlin AP Indy cross, I think, was something like 26% stakes winners or something like that. I mean, and like however many graded stakes winners that are bred on that similar cross, So yeah, it's definitely a pretty potent, from a pedigree standpoint, a pretty potent cross, and obviously something that people pay a lot of attention to.
I would say so, and I guess the person, the romanticist in me wants to look at it as, well, of course, what do you expect when you have a champion like Curlin who's in the Hall of Fame, and then you have a champion like AP Indy who's in the Hall of Fame, and you put them together? I mean, it's going to just create all these great horses, but you never know. I mean, what is that old saying? You breed the best of the best, and you hope for the best.
Yeah, it's the two stallions that have obviously stamped their mark in our industry and in our breeding game for sure. So yeah, you're exactly right.
And the thing is, I want to just double check this while I'm speaking with you, but I found there was sort of a similarity also between the way in which Flightline is bred, being by Tappet and then out of
Indian Charlie Mare.
Indian Charlie Mare, and then with Modonegal.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, Uncle Mo.
Uncle Mo. So there's
the
Indian Charlie again, right?
Yeah,
so
absolutely.
There's sort of the, I don't know. I don't know if it's just too limited a sample size, but
again, you got to get Ed on here. He could dissect all that stuff like it's something that just comes natural to him. Like the back of his hand type.
I love Ed, and I love his son Jeremy. They are a hoot. Jeremy's son Nathan. He is awesome. I mean, it's just a great family.
Absolutely.
Period.
Absolutely.
Let me see here. I have. Oh, Jay wants to go back to talking about Forte, saying you guys are saying good position. It's good to have a 2-year-old that has been looked. Oh, I think are you talking about the filly? I'm not sure. It could be either of them, right? Because they were both like right there. This might be, I think he is talking about Forte because he steered Loggins in the eye and repelled him. So you guys are in good position. It's good to have a 2-year-old that's been looked in the eye by another horse fight and be game. Good luck with Forte. There it is. Yes. So yeah, let's move on because otherwise we could talk forever. So we talked about Nest. What is your, just real quick before we move on from Nest, what is your feeling regarding that field? Who's your biggest competition? Is it Malata? Is it somebody else?
I mean, it's a pretty deep field, obviously. I think anytime you lead into these Breeders' Cup championship type races, I mean, none of them are just a lead over and walk in the park. Malathat obviously is incredibly talented. It seems like she's back on her A game and a filly that obviously loves Keeneland. Clairiere is obviously very, very talented. It's a deep, deep field. There's going to probably end up being 6, 7, 8 horses that show up in that race, and every single one of them probably have a chance. We just hope that our filly is is a little bit better than the other ones.
Oh, I know. And real quick, I do have this from when we visited with Nest. There she is, being sweet with my little girl Ava.
Yeah, absolutely.
That is the famous Matt Carothers of TVG and now FanDuel lore.
There you go.
But okay, now let's talk about another horse that's there in the barn who may well be targeting Breeders' Cup, and that is a Dynamic One. And he was last 6th in the Jockey Club Gold Cup. I'm not going to show that race. We're going to show a win. We're going to show the win of the Suburban, which was just the start prior to that. Let's see. And talk about pedigree, talk about Phipps pedigree. So he's a son of Union Rags, and he's got a really cool eye. I'm going to show you guys that in a minute, because of all the stallions I've ever met, Union Rags may have the coolest eyes I've ever seen. Not just in a thoroughbred breed, but any horse. But yeah, Dynamic One is a son of his, but his second dam is Storm Flag Flying. Storm Flag Flying, of course, champion, Breeders' Cup Juvenile Fillies champion. I think she was second in the distaff. Her mom, My Flag, juvenile champion filly, out of my favorite female horse ever, Personal Ensign. So great pedigree. Let's see here. So, oh, there's an advertisement. Okay, there we go.
He's obviously, you see him winning the Suburban here, going 1.25 miles. I mean, which is what he's bred to do. He's a big, physically imposing horse, incredible muscle mass on him. But he moves like a very good horse. And you can see just even in here going down the backside, he's just one of those horses that has a very efficient stride and carries his head well. And you can tell that he's, the jock's sitting on a ton of horse and just got to make sure that everything gets timed right, and IRAD can get him in a good spot and get up for the win there eventually, like he does.
Yeah, and he's just, when we met him in the barn, I'll show the picture in a moment. I also loved his personality.
Yeah.
He's a very cool attention.
Absolutely. He's a little bit of a ham when he's in the barn, and people can come around and give him pets and peppermints on the nose and everything.
Oh my gosh, yes. And so again, by Union Rags, out of Beat the Drums by Smart Strike, Beat the Drums herself out of Storm Flag Flying. I this pedigree again. When when your mom is out of Storm Flag Flying, that's your grandma for the layman out there, and then your great grandmother is my flag, and then your
Absolutely.
great grandmother is personal ensign. I don't know.
It was a unique opportunity that the Phipps family decided to sell a couple of colts. And again, when you have the opportunity to get into those families, you jump on it. And we bought him. From a confirmation standpoint, he was exactly what we were looking for. Ed got excited about the pedigree.
Yeah.
We were lucky enough that Daisy and her family wanted to stay in for a piece of him and send him to Todd.
Oh.
So that was a lot of fun. And Mike and Vinny have gotten to know Daisy through the whole process even more, and her family, and they've become very close through it too. So it's a lot of fun to see those guys and a family like the Phippses come together and have a lot of success and keep it rolling.
And as you said, you could see that he wanted to go that whole time, and to win a big race like that, I'm sure the celebration. I don't know if you were there for that one either, but
no, again, I was here. But anytime Mike and Vinny win a race, you can guarantee there's going to be a celebration. They're very good on that front for sure.
Oh gosh, well, he went to Keeneland September 2019, 725. We went over the pedigree. You can understand why, and then you can also understand why the Phipps would want to stay in. Here's that photo I was talking about. Unfortunately, it doesn't convey on the computer just how intensely beautiful this horse's eyes are. He almost looks a little mythological when he came out with it. Very caramel, very pretty, and very intelligent.
Yes.
And you'll find, I'm sure there have been some loosey-goosey weird horses out there from the mental standpoint who have turned out to be good race horses, but by and large, the best horses have good sound minds, yes?
Absolutely. It goes back to that presence, that I talked about early on. When those horses come out in front of you and you see them kind of stand up in front of you, you can kind of fall in love with them with their presence.
Yeah, absolutely. So now let's talk about a horse who's going to be coming back in action. We're going to talk about some of the horses with the lows. And Colonel Liam.
Yes.
Okay, so Colonel Liam, two-time Pegasus World Cup Turf Invitational winner. We last saw him in action, the Dubai Turf. What happened there? Where's he been? How's he coming into what's left of 2022?
Yeah, at the end of the day, we shipped him over there with a lot of confidence. And the way he trained, he ended up, he gave us a lot of confidence going into the race. But unfortunately, 10 strides out of the gate, I could have told you that, he did not appreciate the surface over there. Like I always say to people, the in Dubai and at Maidan, they have the incredible task of growing grass in the middle of the desert. So yeah, I wouldn't necessarily say that it's a turf course that every horse loves. And going down the backside, you could tell he swapped leads like 10 times before he even got into the turn. And Irad said that, they were kind of cruising. He was swapping his leads back and forth. And when they got into the turn and he asked him for his run, he gave us about 100 yards of a run. And then he leveled off and those horses just went on by him. But it was an incredibly deep field. They set the track record that night. I think now there's been either 5 or 6 grade 1 winners that have come out of that race. Like going into it, there was a handful, but I think now it's even shown that how deep of a race that it actually was. So he was up against it, with the ship. I know all the horses had to ship there, but it seemed like he was handling everything good, but he just didn't appreciate the surface. And out of the race, he came out of it just a little tired and a little like kind of spent, it looked like, and a little bit of bone bruising and things like that. He's owned by the best owners in the, some of the best owners in the game and the most patient people in the world. So when Todd, told us that, we knew it was time to just give him a little bit of a vacation. So he's down at Stone Street Training Center, rehabbing down there with Ian Brennan and his team. And the reports are that he's coming back stronger than, he went into it type thing. And we're hoping that maybe we can show up and do the three-peat in the Pegasus.
That's what I was going to say. That's the goal, a three-peat.
Absolutely. I think if you win it 3 times in a row, they have to name it after you. But, we'll see what happens. But, yeah, he's a horse that runs well off of a layoff. And, Todd was adamant that if we gave him the time and we brought him back, that, he felt confident that he could come back and compete at a high level. And that's what we're doing with him.
I love that too. And yeah, why not? He looks like a Pegasus.
Yeah, absolutely.
I'll show that replay because I do have the 2022 Pegasus World Cup Turf Invitational pulled up. But I got to obviously give a shout out to the fact that he is by a Breeders' Cup champion, and Liam's Map, who set a record winning the Dirt Mile. Liam's Map, another son of the aforementioned Unbridled Song. Were you at TaylorMade when Unbridled Song was there?
I was. I actually groomed him for a year in the Stallion Complex. So I was there. I had him, and then I had Escandarea, and you could not have put two horses on more of a polar opposite scale of how they acted. Escandarea was a playful horse, joyful, a fun-loving horse. And Unbridled Song was just the classiest horse that you could have ever been around, and handled everything with class and grace. And like I said, it was like having a teenage boy on one side and having like a 50-year-old man on the other side. It was pretty amazing to see how those two horses that were incredible race horses, how they were in their personalities.
I've heard from so many people exactly what you've just said about Unbridled Song, just exuding class and leaving such an indelible impression.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, he was, look, he I think the Taylor brothers would tell you this too. I mean, he built their operation. I mean, he was one of the first stallions that they brought in, and he helped in every aspect of that business, whether it was boarding, private sales, obviously public sales, which are most known for, everything, stallions, recruitment, you name it. He was kind of the foundation for a lot of their success, and they do tie a lot of their success back to him, and they're obviously appreciative of everything he did for them.
I love it. So again, Colonel Liam by Liam's Map out of Amazement by Bernardini, champion 3-year-old of 2006 by AP Indy Hall of Famer. And also I give a shout out to his second dam. That's Grade 1 winner Wonder again. So yeah, not too shabby there. Will they ever stand him stud? Has there been any talk of that?
There's been some inquiries. Obviously, like right now, it's just let's bring him back to the races. And the Lows, Mr. and Mrs. Lowe, they get into this. They're into this industry because they love their horses and they want to see them run and they want to see them compete. I mean, they're not necessarily in it for any sort of money making venture. So. They love it. They love seeing their horses run, and when you have the opportunity to bring a high class level racehorse back, they're going to do it. And the excitement for them comes in winning big races. So, not necessarily seeing them. I mean, everybody wants to see their progeny and how they go on and their success in the breeding shed, but their main love is seeing these horses compete and run.
Oh, it's so exciting. For anybody who owns a horse, and Mike will say this, right? Whether it's at the claiming level or at Grade 1, obviously you might get a little more excited if the person is a couple million as opposed to 20,000 or something like that. But it's just something about seeing your horse cross the wire first. That is an indescribable feeling unless you've actually experienced it. And I would say, I mean, not to take anything away from the replay here, but just really quick, touching upon that, do you ever have, because I know Mike still likes to claim horses. Do you ever assist with that at all? Are you ever scouting horses?
I mean, there's obviously some discussion with some things that he does, but again, he lets the experts, the trainers that he employs, do that. And they're very good at it. They're very strategic, and Mike, at the end of the day, has the final call. But like in those instances, again, I'm better off staying out of the way as opposed to trying to offer up my services for that. Let the experts do their thing.
Well, here is Colonel Liam repeating in the Pegasus World Cup Turf Invitational, and we're gonna again hope to see a three-peat in 2023. Another horse that we have to talk about that's going to be making their way back to the races is a horse that got us super excited, and that is a 2-year-old filly. She only raced once, but dear goodness, did she ever make an impression putting up a 101 buyer figure, and that is Money's Gold. So I'll go ahead and show the replay here. Owned by Luana and Robert Lowe, debuted at Monmouth Park, sprinting 5 furlongs, won by 14.5 lengths. So let's go ahead and watch that. And you tell me, did you expect her to win first out? I'm guessing you thought it was probable, but I don't know that anybody expected a win like this.
No, I mean, I don't think you can ever expect these types of things. But she was a filly that, she was broke at Todd's dad's place, Peyton Training Center with JJ Fletcher, Gerard Butler down there, and always very high on her. I mean, they've always told me that she had a lot of speed. She was very, very quick. And then, when Todd got his hands on her, he basically said the same thing. She was a filly that had a lot of speed and was quick out of the gate. And she's not the easiest filly in the world to train in the mornings. I mean, she's very, very headstrong. But in this instance, it was just one of those, like, kind of get her up to the front, let her set the pace, and then go from there. But I mean, she totally ran them off their feet. And it was very, very surprising to see how, the final margin and what she did. The filly that runs second to her came back and broke her maiden in her next start. And then I think one of the other fillies out of this race has already broke their maiden too, and maybe even gotten a little bit of black type. So it shows you that, based on whatever, speed figure that you use or whatever, it didn't matter where she broke her maiden. It was a pretty special performance for sure.
Oh, she looked like she was about to catch fire. She was going so fast, and she ripped their hearts out. So give them props for coming back and running their races next out, because sometimes these fillies get really demoralized if they get
absolutely.
But so, what is the goal for her? What can you say why she was gone for so long? And what?
I mean, in all honesty, she came up with a little small issue in a hock, and it was one of those deals that it was kind of a freak accident, or kind of like something that Todd didn't really have a lot of experience with. So whenever you get those calls from Todd, in full disclosure, it's, just back off of them and like kind of give them the time. And she ended up going straight in to back down to Todd's dad's place for a little bit of rehab. We sent her to TaylorMade Farm for a little bit of a time off. No surgery required, no nothing. She just needed to kind of get back stable on her feet. And that's what it was. And we sent her back down to Todd's dad's down at Peyton Training Center in Ocala. And she's back up and going, and she's ready to probably ship to Palm Beach Downs any week now. But we're very, very excited to get her back going. I mean, from a pedigree standpoint, she's a Munnings out of a Medaglia d'Oro mare. There's plenty of stamina underneath, so when you can add that speed on top and the distance on bottom, we think she's got a bright future, and she's obviously very talented.
Oh yeah, you've got a two-time champion in Germany in the background there too, Golden Ivory. So we're always thinking about any of these horses who can win the Gran Premio del Jockey Club. I think stamina, like you just said.
Absolutely.
But also, the precociousness. I mean, the family also. The third dam. So that would be the great grandma, y'all. Full sister to a niece who won the Breeders' Cup Juvenile back in the day and was the champion. But you got to love these pedigrees. Now, one more horse to talk about, and this one is by another 2-year-old champion, Classic Empire, who won the Juvenile back in 2016, and out of Newbie by Bernardini, who we've already gone over, and that is Classy Edition. What is she up to?
She is back in training with Todd after her 2-year-old year. She had been straight from the Maryland sale in May. Had gone straight to Todd in Saratoga. She had kind of put together a campaign with no time off. So after she had her last race there, we decided to give her some time off. And again, we sent her to TaylorMade, and she's just a filly that's lucky enough to be owned by some of the best owners in the game, Mr. and Mrs. Lowe. And they wanted to give her some time off and let her kind of come take a deep breath and put her head down and eat some grass. But she's back with Todd, just worked 3/8 down at Palm Beach Downs a couple of days ago. And we're looking forward to a very good 3-year-old campaign.
No, it's super exciting. Now, I'm going to just ask some questions more about you real quick, and then we'll let you go. But I want you to be able to highlight some of the other things that you're up to. Before I do, Wayne Harrison is saying, Nest Breeders' Cup Classic winner 20. If the Classic wasn't so crazy this year, is this a filly you would have put in there? I mean, you put her in the
I mean, again, Aaron Wellman and Mike Rapoli are some of the biggest game owners in the world. I mean, it obviously is something that they ended up wanting to discuss. But
for next year, they're saying, 2023.
Yeah, exactly. Okay. Yeah. But, look, I'm sure if she continues on, it's not something that's out of the realm of possibility with these guys. I mean, they are for sure gamers, and they want to see their horses compete at the highest levels.
Was there any sort of, maybe we should have put her in the Travers?
Again, Mike's a New York bred. He loves seeing that, like himself, he loves to compete in some of those biggest races. But at the end of the day, going in to the CCA Oaks and then the Alabama, when you win those races, and especially coming off of running second in the Belmont, you have an opportunity to lock up, a championship type, a season. And that's kind of what the deciding factor was. I mean, if she went in and put on just dominating performances in those races, and that's what they expected her to do, quite frankly. But all that did was just position her for a champion or a shot at champion 3-year-old filly.
And looking at her as in what he's saying here, and as you've already talked about, being by Curlin and having AP Indy there on the bottom, is this a horse that you would expect at 4 years old that I mean she would develop into one of these horses that could definitely throw down against the males even before the Classic?
I mean, look, as I stated
sure
earlier,
ran well in the Belmont, so I didn't forget
yeah,
that.
exactly. As I stated earlier, as the days have gone by in the calendar, you've only seen her get better and stronger. So, again, we really do think that her best days almost might be in front of her, even though she's had the dominating performances that she has. She's going to run as a 4-year-old, so all the fans out there get to follow her along in her 4-year-old campaign. So it's one of those deals that. I'm not going to, with Mike and Aaron, you're never going to take anything off the table. So I'm just wondering if Wayne Harrison, some sort of burner account for Rapoli, if he's not on here, submitting all this himself.
I believe Wayne is actually based in Europe. I think he's in England. He usually has these great, crazy future wagers he gets. He gets like super good odds on horses that we can't get here. I don't know how he does it, but
you're even furthermore convincing me that it actually is Mike.
I would like to think Wayne tunes in every week, and I'd like to think that Mike likes me, but I don't know that he's that interested in things I have to say.
Exactly. No,
but,
for sure.
Oh my God, he says I've got 8-1 on the distaff.
There you go. Yeah.
That's insane. Okay, book that action. We're gonna
have to tell Mike that he can get Wayne to make his overseas bets.
There you go. So now let's talk more specifically about you. I already taken over an hour of your time. Highgate. I mean, you guys have just joined the $1 Million Club. You sold a half to Kamari by Constitution for $1.3 million.
Yeah, it was an exciting time, and especially in such a fledgling operation that we are, to just get started and to already have sold $1 million horse. It was really quite funny. After we sold that horse, how many people in the consignment business came up to Jill and I and said, how many years it took me to sell $1 million horse? So we know we're blessed. We know we were lucky. We really got to represent some of the best people in the game and selling for them. And look, it was a perfect storm that came together in a really strong sale. But he was a beautiful horse. He was by a hot stallion with the current pedigree with Kamari. Richard Knight was a guy that showed up, kind of seemed like out of the blue, out of the clouds. But in speaking with Richard after the sale and when he bought the horse, he told us it was his favorite horse in the sale in book one. And, we were just lucky to be able to sell him on behalf of China Horse Club, his breeders. And we were lucky that Richard Knight showed up at the sale. And obviously there was an underbidder. The reserve was not, 1.299. It was way below that, but it was a bidding duel on a very, very nice horse, and it culminated in $1.3 million.
How scary was it for you to go ahead and start this new agency? Because Jill, I should mention, I met her when she was working for Claiborne, and she made such a great impression. She is so knowledgeable. She is so kind also. And she really seems passionate about what she does. A lot of people work to work, but she works, at least the impression I got, because she truly does love it.
Absolutely. I mean, going back earlier, there's zero fear when you have a partner like Jill Gordon. I mean, you said her passion is representing other people and selling horses. She's done it for a long time, starting with Warrendale and then obviously going to Claiborne and really getting them kind of in a new age of selling horses, it seemed like. Now, when she came to me, we had discussions of what she could do with her future. It was a no-brainer to propose the idea of going into partnership when in the public sales arena. Like I said, I worked for what I call is the New York Yankees of selling horses at public auction and TaylorMade for 10 years. So I was very comfortable with that. And they sell more horses than anybody and have a track, record of being very, very flat. Basically have a knowledge of how to do it and what to do. And so did she. So when we sat down together and kind of came and formulated a plan, it worked out really well. And I make no bones about it. Jill, she runs the ship without a doubt. She's absolutely fantastic at her job. She's very gifted, and like you said, it's her passion. She loves to do it.
Oh, well, you just went live earlier this year, or was it the end of last? I can't remember.
No, it was a February sale at Fasig-Tipton was our first sale. And again, we were lucky enough to sell a very nice filly over there and Brilliant Cut. And she topped the sale in our first sale. It's crazy. We don't take it for granted. We know that it's based on the clients that entrust us and give us the horses to sell. And then we've basically just tried to keep the ball rolling from the Fasig February sale and make a name for ourselves as being honest people that do the best that we can to sell somebody else's horse.
Oh my goodness. Okay, so what is next for you, Jacob West, as we head ever closer to the Breeders' Cup World Championships, November 4th and 5th? I'm looking at you. I'm seeing a champion, so that's why I can't tell.
Exactly.
So everything, in terms of like getting these. Is it just part of the entourage at this point? You're just there, like as the spectator, but also we have these big sales coming up.
Absolutely. In the short term, I would tell you, Jonathan Thomas is staying at my house here for the Keeneland meet, so I've got a couple of hours to cook him dinner, or he's going to come home angry.
Congratulations on delight.
Exactly. And then in the long term, we're lucky because Todd has a string here at Keeneland. So all the big horses are either have shipped in already, or they're on their way, and will be here over the next couple of days. So you wake up in the morning, you go out to Keeneland, you watch those horses train, and then you do prepare. We've got the October sale, yearling sale right around the corner at the end of this month, and then we have the Breeders' Cup, and then we roll straight into the November breeding stock sales. So hopefully we'll be active selling on the Highgate side and buying on the West Bloodstock side. And that's what I have to look forward to.
Oh, goodness. So exciting. Jacob, I thank you so much for all of your time. And we are super stoked to see not only these stars come the Breeders' Cup, but ones that you have in the pipeline. I am sure there are many, especially after how hard you guys hit Keeneland this year.
Yeah, exactly. No, I appreciate it. And it's an honor. And thank you for covering this sport in the way that you do. It means a lot to the guys in the industry that people get out and talk about their horses. And again, thank you very much.
Gosh, that means more to me than I can convey in any way that would sound eloquent. But thank you so much. And
absolutely.
This has been your Future Stars Forecast on a 2-Year-Old Tuesday. Thank you so much to my special guest, Jacob West. I will check you back here next week.